Reborn. This time I avoided every single intersection with my wife. She persuaded me to graduate and become a house husband, but I secretly signed up for graduate school. She decided to subsidize the household to support her first love, but I secretly transferred the money away. She said she was ready to hold the wedding and marry me, but I chose to run away. In my previous life, my child was switched with her first love's child. My child died young while I raised her first love's child to success. In old age, they pushed me off a mountain to reunite with each other. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the year of my graduation. Chapter 1. Happy graduation. Suddenly my hands were stuffed full of pots, pans and dishes. I was dazed and everything clattered to the ground. The woman in front of me instantly darkened her expression. "Justin, what are you doing? These are the kitchen supplies I worked so hard to prepare for you too. They're perfect for you to use." Robin's mother kept scolding me endlessly, pointing her finger at me. But I was still immersed in the overwhelming joy of rebirth. Counting the days, today was the last day for graduate school registration. Did you hear me? How can you take care of my daughter if you act like this? At the mention of Robin, a graceful silhouette flashed across my mind. In my past life, I always thought it was my luck to have pursued and won her. She was beautiful, her grades ranked among the best in school. And because she loved dancing, even casual practice could get her into the provincial team. She loved writing songs, and even a casual tune she wrote could become popular with the public. Now she wanted to be a doctor and was immediately recognized by a senior professor in the medical field who took her as his last disciple. Everyone envied that I had a marriage contract with her, that she actually liked me. Only I knew that she was a selfish and rotten person. Thinking of what she had done in the previous life, I clenched my fists, forced down my disgust, and smiled as I said, "Please go back first. I have something to do, so I'll leave now." Without caring about her calling me back, I immediately sprinted toward the internet cafe at the school gate. When my roommates saw me quickly opening the graduate school registration system, they were shocked and asked if I wasn't planning to be a house husband. I smiled and replied, "This is the great era of reform and opening up. How can I trap myself in a small family? Contributing to the country through graduate studies is what I should do." Perhaps they didn't expect me to change so suddenly, but my roommates' eyes lit up at once, full of admiration. After I finished filling out the form, I let out a sigh of relief and returned to the school. Chapter 2. In my previous life, I listened to Robin's advice. After graduation, I took the large inheritance my parents left me and became a house husband. With my care, she had no worries at home. After graduation, she directly started her internship at the hospital. And later, under the guidance of that senior professor, she rose steadily in her career. She was transferred to a hospital in the city, and her first love, Domingo, also followed her to the city. Only I was left behind in the village. The next time we met was when she was giving birth. I sat in the same hospital room as her first love. Domingo sat at the side resting while I ran around busy taking care of her. Even if Domingo only wanted a sip of water, she, the weak, would force herself up to pour it for him. But if I so much as sat down for a moment, she would curse me for not knowing how to take care of a wife. My heart was broken, but I told myself that after the baby was born, I would dedicate everything to raising the child. I watched my child grow from a babbling, smiling infant to someone who, as he grew up, became increasingly impatient with me, unwilling to even come home for the new year. I thought he was just too busy. Until the new year of my 65th year, I finally learned the truth. She, our son, and Domingo had been living together all along. My son even called another man dad. I confronted them directly, but my son stood up in an instant, blocking them tightly behind him, then shoved me hard. "Dad, wouldn't it be better for you to just stay in the village and grow old quietly? Why do you have to ruin our reunion during the new year? I don't want anyone to know I have a father who knows nothing and looks like some village bumpkin." Behind him, Robin didn't even glance at me. She was busy comforting Domingo, who had been startled into tears. She looked at me coldly and said, "Divorce." I refused to divorce. Why should I? I had poured my entire life's energy into the Kim family. It was me who cared for my in-laws when they were sick while she was out enjoying herself. It was me who raised our son alone without any help, raised him into success. And only when he turned 18 did mother and son even have a conversation. And yet now he said I knew nothing, that I was just some ignorant peasant. I demanded justice so loudly that even the neighbors were drawn over by my voice. At last they grew impatient and compromised. Later the four of us went climbing together. The three of them wanted to push me off the cliff together. I clung desperately to my son's leg, begging him to save me for the sake of our many years of father-son bond. But he only looked at me with disgust and finally shouted the truth. "You were never my real dad. The daughter my mom gave birth to, your daughter, died at birth. At that time I was already a year old but sick and my father didn't have time to take care of me. That's why I became your child instead. If I had a choice I wouldn't have wanted you to raise me at all." At that moment all my strength drained away. So in this life everything I had done was just making wedding clothes for others. I suddenly regretted it. Why did I ever give up my career to be a house husband? In the end my son without the slightest hesitation kicked me down the cliff. When I opened my eyes again I had returned to the year of my graduation. Chapter 3. As soon as I returned to school I saw Robin's mother frowning and cursing under her breath. Robin did not refute her, only remained silent. Domingo was also beside her. He gently patted Mrs. Kim's back to comfort her, then lifted his eyes and saw me. "Look, brother-in-law is back. He must not have meant to upset you." As he spoke he reached out to take my hand, his voice soft. "Come on, apologize to Aunt Kim." I turned my body to avoid his hand. Robin looked puzzled. "What's wrong with you?" Mrs. Kim's expression darkened further. "Don't waste words with him." With that she pulled 2 red envelopes from her pocket, smiling. One for Robin, one for Domingo. The 3 of them held hands as if they were a family, completely treating me as the outsider. Domingo lifted his head to glance at me, seemingly afraid. "But brother-in-law didn't get one." Mrs. Kim snorted coldly while Robin, hearing this, pulled out a wad of cash from her pocket. "She doesn't need this money. You're different. It's not easy living alone, you take this." At first I only wanted to stand by and watch, but suddenly I rushed forward to snatch it. "Robin, you're giving my money to your first love right in front of me. Did you even ask me?" Robin's face grew cold and she pulled it away before I could grab it. "You have so much money." "I only took a little. He lost his parents. Living alone isn't easy. How can you be so heartless not to help?" Her words made me laugh in anger. So he was an orphan. And I wasn't? Did the Kim family think just because they were poor they could use my money to subsidize someone else? Domingo's eyes welled with tears from being startled by me. "Please, sister, brother-in-law, don't fight because of me. If she doesn't want to give me the money then I won't take it." With that he sighed and quickly left. Robin immediately chased after him. In front of me the 2 of them pulled and tugged for a while until finally Domingo accepted the money. I was anxious and wanted to follow, but Mrs. Kim gripped my arm tightly to stop me. "Our family does not welcome narrow-minded men like you." I couldn't break free, and in the end it was Robin who pulled us apart. She looked at me with nothing but coldness in her eyes. "Justin, I'm too disappointed in you." Then she shook her head as if compromising. "If you don't want me to give it to him then I won't anymore." Chapter 4. I knew they would never willingly give up having me as their walking money bag. After they left I immediately went to the bank. Robin knew the password to my card. When I checked the balance I realized that large sums of money had already been withdrawn without explanation. Clearly this wasn't the first time Robin had done this. I immediately changed the password. Then I went back to school to find my teacher. She was the one who had recognized my talent, and all the awards I'd won at school had come from her guidance. When my teacher heard that I wanted to take the graduate exam her eyes lit up. Then she asked if I would be willing to follow her to South City University of Technology to study mechanical research with her professor. Coincidentally they would depart next month. She was even willing to teach me for free. My eyes shone. Wasn't this exactly the dream school I had always longed for? I agreed again and again. During a break before going home I started researching train tickets for next month. The price wasn't high for me. I clasped my hands over my chest. Soon I would finally be free. Chapter 5. When I got home it was already late. The apartment wasn't large, but everything inside and out was decorated according to Robin's preferences. Now that we were going to separate I couldn't help but feel some heartache, mainly for the money. Thinking that, I immediately pulled out a bag and began packing up the valuables to sell them at the shops outside. While packing I came across the scarf I had embroidered for Robin. I had always liked working with big things, but I wasn't good at the kind of work that required patience. My fingers had been pricked over and over again. She had seen it once and immediately said it was ugly, ignoring my hands full of wounds. So dramatic. If you don't pay attention, how is that my fault? My heart was broken. I thought I really wasn't good at embroidery. But now looking closely, it actually looked quite decent. I sighed and put it away, planning to use it in winter. After selling things and coming back home, the apartment looked much emptier. I calculated that when the time came to leave, I would clear this place out completely, not leaving Robin a single thing. She came home very late. When I saw her, her cheeks were flushed. It looked like she had been drinking. I stayed out a bit late having dinner with them, she explained. Fortunately, I had enough sense not to cook for her. But she carried a strong perfume scent, even more overpowering than what I had smelled earlier in the day. They must have been sitting very close. She seemed to notice and immediately took off her coat. He fell and I helped him all the way back. Don't overthink it. I gave a simple For once I didn't make a fuss. After all, I had seen this trick many times. Domingo would always appear whenever Robin and I were alone injured. Robin would only say that as a doctor she couldn't just ignore someone in need. And the ending was always the same. I would watch her walk away arm in arm with Domingo, crying my throat hoarse without earning even a single glance back. Anyone with eyes could see there was something wrong between them. Only I was the fool. It took me a lifetime to see it clearly. I didn't respond, only returned to my room and pulled out the book my teacher had given me to study. Just as I was about to sit down, I heard the door open. Robin didn't knock, she just walked right in. I quickly stood up and nervously shoved the materials away. I didn't want her to know about my graduate exam plans. She seemed not to notice anything unusual and instead said to me, "My mother has picked an auspicious date for the wedding. It'll be the first day of next month." She wasn't asking, she was informing me. The first day of next month, that was exactly the day I would be leaving with my teacher. Perfect. I also wanted to see her reaction when I ran away from the wedding in front of her. Chapter 6. I gave a nonchalant as if agreeing. She took it as normal and continued. "My mom sent the pots and pans for you." As she spoke, she walked over and gently held my hand. "I know you're not very good at cooking, but that's fine. In the future we can cook together, okay?" There was a softness in her eyes that I rarely saw. In my previous life she had promised me this way too. But after we married it was completely different. She was often too busy to come home for meals. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Kim, would scold me for my bad cooking, saying it was shameful. When she found out, she only said faintly, "Since you're at home with nothing to do, just practice more. Don't upset the elders." Later I learned that she often cooked and did housework outside. Domingo was well taken care of by her. Even in old age his fingers were still smooth and fair. I forced down my disgust, lowered my head and pretended to be shy. After a few words she finally left. I collapsed into the chair, letting out a long sigh of relief. Everyone thought that as an orphan with no one to rely on I had struck gold by marrying Robin. That was why in my past life's wedding everyone surrounded Robin. Even when they spoke to me it was to tell me to be sensible. Yet my grades at school had been no worse than hers. My family had been wealthy and that wealth ended up supporting the Kim family for their entire lives in my last life. But in the end the only honor anyone gave me was being known as the man who married Robin Kim. This time I don't want such a title. I want to live for myself. Chapter 7. By the day before I had already sold everything in the apartment that could be sold. Robin rarely came home and normally didn't care about the apartment, so she hadn't noticed anything missing. She left all the wedding planning to her mother except for this day when she asked me to meet her at the bridal shop. When I arrived I saw Robin sitting outside waiting. Just as I walked up, the curtain in front of me opened. It was Domingo. He was wearing a slim-fit white suit, smiling brightly. "Look, doesn't this suit look?" His voice cut off abruptly. Robin looked up, saw me, and immediately explained. "Domingo was just kindly trying on the suit for you, don't take it the wrong way. You study engineering. Of course you don't have the same sense of aesthetics as someone who studied design like him." But Domingo had on full makeup and had specially styled his hair. He clearly wasn't just trying it on for me. Seeing me silent, Domingo put on a look as if he were about to cry. Robin casually grabbed a suit and handed it to me. It was a gray suit, the style I hated most. I refused, but she forcibly pushed me into the fitting room. "Be good." Domingo wore this and it looked great. But I was stronger than him and the suit didn't fit at all. Even the store clerk suggested changing to another one. I had no choice but to change out. Yet when I was pulling off my pants they caught on my underwear and the underwear slid down too. Unexpectedly Robin suddenly came in. Startled I covered myself immediately. Even though we had been husband and wife in my previous life and this one we were still innocent. But she was indifferent. What's there to be shy about? You'll have to show me sooner or later. Let me see why it doesn't fit. She strode up to me, first yanking my pants back on, then pulling hard at the suit jacket to force it closed. I took a deep breath, but it squeezed me so tightly I couldn't breathe, almost crying from the pain. I can't breathe. A sharp pain suddenly came from my back. I felt a chill. The clerk entered and cried out in shock. There's blood. Are you crazy? If it doesn't fit, why force him to wear it? I had injured my back earlier while moving furniture and now the wound was torn open again. The pain nearly made me sob. Domingo, drawn over by the commotion, pretended to want to help. But he didn't close the curtain. Yet I was in too much pain to care about dignity. In front of them all, with the clerk's help, I shakily took it off and put my own clothes back on. Robin seemed to finally have some conscience, forcefully supporting me to get a taxi and taking me to the hospital for bandaging. My tears wouldn't stop, but inside I felt calm. Even the doctor was shocked at my condition, carefully cleaning my wound and sternly scolding Robin. What kind of girlfriend was she? She kept her head lowered, silent as if guilty. In the end, Robin held my hand and said faintly, I'm sorry. I just thought it looked good, that's why I insisted you wear it. Tomorrow I'll definitely get you a bigger one, okay? But even now she only compromised a little. She still wanted me to wear that suit I hated. Quietly I wiped away my tears and said gently, all right. Robin instantly lifted her head, smiling brightly. Great, I knew you wouldn't make a fuss about it. Of course it was great. After all, I didn't care about this wedding at all. Tomorrow, the messier the better. Chapter 8. But whatever guilt Robin felt vanished the moment we got home and saw Domingo. He was squatting at the doorway of my apartment crying. I got kicked out by my landlord. The money you gave me I couldn't pay up. But Robin's first reaction was to look at me. You changed the bank password? My heart went cold and some suspicions slowly surfaced in my mind. What do you mean by that? Robin shook off the hand she had been using to support me and questioned me. Why didn't you tell me you changed the password? Domingo was waiting for the money to rent a place. What does his rent have to do with me? That money was left to me by my parents. I was furious. So Robin really had been giving my money to Domingo to rent a house. No wonder in my last life, no matter how carefully I saved, by old age I couldn't withdraw any large amount. It seemed it had been taken this way back then too. One bank card, sucked dry by her whole family. Domingo leaned on the wall, slowly standing up, his red swollen eyes turning toward me. What are you saying? Your money is Robin's money too, isn't it? She only helped me out because she felt sorry for me, it was always in your name that she gave it. I sneered. What use was that so-called name? I walked up to him and stood firmly in front of him. It has nothing to do with me. This is you stealing my money. Give it back. Domingo cried even louder. I don't have anything to pay you back with. As he cried, he threw himself into Robin's arms. Just as I was about to explode, a neighbor poked their head out and cursed. If you want to fight, do it inside. For the sake of face, Robin quickly agreed and pulled us into the apartment. Once the door was closed, she hugged Domingo and comforted him for a long while. In the end, against my will, she forced Domingo to stay in my room. I stayed silent, sitting in the living room for a long time. When she came out, she sat next to me. Why is your room so empty? I raised an eyebrow, a little surprised she had finally noticed, and lied. It's nothing, I just tidied up. Just now I wanted to borrow some of your clothes for Domingo, but I couldn't find any. I laughed bitterly. No wonder. Good thing I had already packed everything. I stood up, ready to grab bedding and sleep in the living room. She grabbed my hand. Domingo's had it rough. Tomorrow I'll have him leave, all right? We're all adults here, don't be so petty. I sneered. Then use your own money to help him. What does it mean to use mine? If you really think he's had it rough, then help him pay me back. I held out my palm toward her. Robin instantly flushed with anger. You're truly unreasonable. With that, she stormed back into the room. I was happy to have some peace. I pulled out a blanket and made a bed on the living room floor. Just thinking of seeing Robin embarrassed tomorrow filled me with joy. Chapter 9. At 5 a.m, we were all up. Domingo, looking like he wanted to atone for something, volunteered to take on the duties of best man, running around helping me get ready. But no matter the hairstyle or the makeup, nothing matched me at all. I looked at the lavish suit he wore, even more extravagant than mine, his makeup more delicate than mine. Any outsider would think he was the groom. Mrs. Kim wanted everything to be simple. So Robin and I were to leave from the apartment together. Just before we stepped out, Robin's face turned dark. She grabbed my hand and asked, "Why did you secretly sign up for the graduate exam?" I was a little surprised but forced myself to stay calm. "Did you get it wrong?" Robin pulled out her phone and opened a message for me to see. "Isn't this you, Justin? On graduation day you suddenly ran off to the internet cafe, wasn't it for this?" Her grip hurt my hand and I struggled. "So what if it was? Why do you think you can control where I go? You're not allowed to go. In your dreams." Seeing this, Domingo hurried to mediate. "Don't do this on such a big day, brother-in-law. Really, if you want to take the exam, then take it. Why keep it from Robin? And besides, didn't you promise after graduation that you'd take good care of her? Why are you doing this?" I shot him a sideways glance, my voice cold. "If you want to take care of her, then you do it." My harshness made Domingo tremble. He stood in front of Robin. I. Tears pooled in his eyes as he lifted his head, looking at Robin with anticipation. But Robin didn't even glance at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on me. "It's fine. When the time comes, we'll go together. As husband and wife, of course we should be side by side." She suddenly calmed down, turned and grabbed my hand. The moment we stepped out, her radiant smile returned. Domingo wanted to say something and tried to sit next to Robin, but she pushed him away. "Take the next car." Domingo blinked. "But didn't we agree?" Robin's tone turned icy. "Don't waste time." Domingo didn't dare argue with her. After getting out of the car, he glared at me angrily before reluctantly climbing into the next one. I decisively closed the back door and sat in the front passenger seat. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Robin's fists clenched tight. Whenever she was nervous and uneasy, she was always like this. I suddenly felt like laughing. "Robin, what is it that makes you so uneasy?" Chapter 10. When we arrived at the venue, Robin held my hand as we entered. As we passed Mrs. Kim, I heard her voice filled with dissatisfaction. "This outfit is far too inappropriate. He knows today is the wedding and still shows up so thoughtless." Sitting beside her, Domingo said cautiously, "Auntie, don't blame Robin. It's my fault for not preparing it well." Mrs. Kim immediately changed her tone. "How could it be your fault? It's him who's simply not suitable." I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Robin suddenly tightened her grip on my hand and spoke up. "You're the most handsome." When I looked up, I saw her tilting her head to look at me. Her words didn't sound fake. But unfortunately, I had long passed the time when I wanted to hear them. Her voice was just loud enough for Domingo to catch. He gave a cold snort, his unwilling gaze burning into my back. At last Robin and I stood together before the officiant. I felt a little nervous. The thought of ruining everything right in front of Robin, who cared so much about appearances, made me feel delighted. The officiant went through the ceremony steps. When it was my turn, "Do you take her as your wife?" "I do not." As soon as the words left my mouth, the hall erupted in shock. Robin's eyes widened in disbelief, as if something had shattered inside them. "You misspoke, didn't you?" "Not at all." I smiled at her, then snatched the microphone from the officiant. "Today's groom is someone else." At that moment, the video I had prepared began to play. On the screen were all kinds of intimate moments between Robin and Domingo. Everyone thought Robin treated me well, that she was universally recognized as the perfect wife candidate. I pulled the completely dumbstruck Domingo onto the stage. "Look at him, his outfit is more lavish than mine, his makeup more refined than mine. If he's not the groom, then who is?" The guests below immediately began whispering. "My God, who couldn't see this coming? Unbelievable. Robin Kim still tangled up with her first love." The video happened to show the moment the two of them kissed in a classroom. The ambiguous sounds filled the hall. Mrs. Kim panicked and shouted, "Turn it off, quickly turn it off." But no one listened. While everyone was still stunned, I slipped on running shoes and dashed out. By the time Robin came to her senses and tried to chase after me, the security guards blocked her way. It was useless. The planner Mrs. Kim had hired happened to be an old friend of my father's. Once they knew it was me, they contacted me in advance, so everything today had been arranged with their help. Mrs. Kim had no way of catching me. Once I left the banquet hall, I immediately got into the car they had prepared and drove away. A new life. Here I come. Chapter 11. In my previous life under Robin's discipline, I became sensible numb. Even when I won major engineering awards in college, in her eyes they were nothing special. She said, "What's the use of studying engineering? In the future you'll still have to obediently stay home and take care of the kids for me." Unlike Domingo, who studied design, understood aesthetics, worked fast and well, and could directly contribute to the household. So I felt inferior, sensitive. I even tried to study design, but in the end it only made me a laughingstock. Even the technological construction I was good at, I never picked it up again. Fortunately, heaven had mercy and gave me a chance to start over. Living another life, I could see everything more clearly. My life should have been rich, diverse, and colorful. I could pursue a master's, a doctorate, delve deeply into the technological construction I was skilled at, and someday contribute to my country. Holding my bundle of belongings, the more I thought, the happier I felt. This sense of independence and freedom was something I had never known in my past life. When we reached the station, I accepted the train ticket from my teacher's hand and boarded with her. Watching the scenery retreating in the distance, I felt my heart completely relax. The journey to South City was long, but fortunately we had bought sleeper tickets. After a full day and night, we finally arrived at our destination. After a day of rest, I invited my teacher and her professor out for a meal and bought some small gifts for the professor. I had worried I would feel cramped and uneasy. But perhaps because I had lived one life already, I faced the professor with calm, speaking confidently and freely. His eyes were full of appreciation, which only made me more poised and self-assured. In the end, we exchanged contact information. After that, we entered the intense preparation phase for exams. On the day before school started in South City, I met Robin again. Chapter 12. I hadn't expected her to actually follow me all the way to my new rental place. Just as I was about to close the door, it was suddenly blocked. Startled, I instinctively braced myself, then looked up and saw her. "It's me." She looked much thinner, unkempt, travel-worn, utterly disheveled. "I finally found you." Her eyes were heavy, her rims red. "Why did you run off here without listening to a single explanation? You made me search for so long." A chill crept through me. Countless thoughts flashed through my mind. I couldn't imagine how she had found me. Perhaps because I looked so guarded, she explained. "You happened to go buy books at a bookstore. One of the part-time staff there is my friend who also came here for graduate studies. Otherwise I might have spent my whole life searching inch by inch and never found you." I let out a breath, still leaning against the door with no intention of letting her inside. "All right, can you stop being angry now? Let me in." Dragging her suitcase, she tried to push her way in. I blocked her even more firmly. "No need. I think I made it clear at the wedding, I don't want to marry you. And now I'll add one more, I don't even want to see you. Leave." But Robin refused to believe it. "You were just jealous seeing me with Domingo, it was all a misunderstanding. Can't you let me explain?" I sneered. "There's no misunderstanding. One, he's had it rough and you take care of him inside and out. What's there to misunderstand?" I kept going. "I don't like gray suits and I don't like the overpowering perfume on you." Her mouth opened but no words came. Her face turned pale. She probably thought she had hidden it well, always taking off her coat before entering, tossing it into the room before coming out again. But the scent of perfume had already soaked her whole body. At last her hands trembled as she shook her head again and again. "It's not like that." I ignored her. While she was dazed, I slammed the door shut. Just then a message from my teacher came asking how preparations were going. For tomorrow's enrollment, of course, I was fully prepared. Then from my teacher's words I learned. These past months Domingo, Mrs. Kim and Robin Kim had not lived peacefully. Because Robin and Domingo's scandal had exploded, the entire city knew. Her professor decided to suspend her internship. Mrs. Kim, upon hearing, was so enraged she was hospitalized. Domingo, wanting to prove himself better than me, volunteered to take care of Mrs. Kim. But under Robin's care he turned out to be utterly useless in daily life. He gave Mrs. Kim undercooked beans or forgot medical instructions and had her take all her pills in one day. What should have been a 2-week recovery dragged on for 2 months. In the end, Mrs. Kim grew extremely dissatisfied with Domingo and instead began to miss my reliability. Later, when they ran out of money, they turned their eyes toward the apartment's belongings. But to their surprise, after rummaging through everything, they found nothing. When they asked the landlord, they learned that aside from the kitchen pots and pans, everything else had originally belonged to me. When I heard this, I couldn't help but feel delighted. Just as it should be. Chapter 13. After completing my enrollment, I followed the professor to begin research in technological construction. In my previous life, I never had the chance to fully realize my ambitions. In this life, I wasn't willing to waste even a second. So, apart from eating and sleeping, I spent all my time in the research lab or out on assignments. When I saw Robin again, I hadn't expected her to appear in the campus infirmary. After several days of non-stop work, my head was spinning, and at the first sight of her, I instinctively tried to run away. Robin immediately put down what she was holding and chased after me. "Don't go, okay? Actually, I've always known you were studying here, I just didn't dare disturb you." I kept thinking, if you ever needed something, then I'd have the chance to show up. Her words sounded deep and affectionate. Disgusting. I tried to shake off her hand. I think an off-campus hospital would be more appropriate. But she forcefully pulled me back for a checkup, and when it seemed serious, she carefully hurried me toward a hospital outside the school. I never imagined that she would have a day where she cared about my physical condition this much. But it was far too late. I had no strength left, so I could only let her take me for tests. In the end, I even watched as she gritted her teeth and pulled out a handful of small bills to pay the medical fee. Without me, she had grown poorer and poorer. Before, she never once had to grit her teeth to pay for anything. Afterward, she carefully sat at my side to feed me medicine, watching the nurse put me on an 4-drip. She held my hand and said solemnly that she only liked me. That it was only because she had been confused that she did those things with Domingo. She said she would never do it again, that she would only act for me from now on. Even the nurse, overhearing, spoke up. "You should forgive your girlfriend. She's a good-looking girl, and she seems like a good person too. Where else could you find someone like that? Yes, someone this rotten really is hard to find." I spoke faintly, without emotion. The nurse froze, then left in silence. The smile on Robin's face flickered for only a moment before vanishing again. After a long time, she only whispered one thing. "I'm sorry. Really, I just need you to give me one more chance." She grabbed my hand again. I was utterly fed up. I frowned and looked at her. "Please, just get lost." Then I pulled 100 yuan from my pocket and shoved it into her hands. "This isn't just enough for the medical bill, it'll cover your expenses for a while. Isn't it money you're after? Since you took care of me, I'll spare you a little charity." Robin opened her mouth, but it took her a long while to form words. "Is that really how you see me? How else?" I sneered. "How much longer are you going to pretend to be righteous? Fraud." My words made her face flush red. She stood up and sat down again, over and over. I ignored her, turning my head to the side. At last I heard her say, "I will prove myself." Then she sat down, completely refusing to leave no matter what. I chose to close my eyes and recover. Chapter 14. As things were wrapping up, I sent a message to my classmates telling them I had taken leave to see a doctor. I hadn't expected that once they found out, they would all rush over to the hospital to see me. The group crowded in at once, pushing Robin aside into the next bed, and started chattering around me, asking how I was doing. I smiled, shook my head, and told them I was fine. "An old acquaintance brought me here." Only then did their eyes flick briefly toward Robin. In the end, not one of them smiled at her, they all turned their heads right back to me. "So this is the crazy ex-girlfriend you mentioned? TSK, she really does look every bit the manipulative woman. She won't meet a good end in this life." Robin, flustered, tried to argue back. But each time she spoke, my classmates shut her down sentence by sentence. Watching everyone around me stand by my side, speaking up for me, I felt deeply moved. In my previous life, I had been cautious and diligent all my life, yet isolated all my life. Even the way I died had been disgraceful. Wasn't the bullying of my past life still bullying? Robin saw that I gave no response. At first she was flustered, wanting to explain, but in the end she deflated completely. Chapter 15. Robin insisted on staying on as the school doctor. As detestable as she was, for someone of her medical talent to remain here as just a school doctor was truly a waste. Her professor had come looking for her many times, but she rejected him each time. She said she wanted to stay here and atone. I was utterly disgusted. After returning from the hospital, she would leave fruit and snacks outside my dorm room every day. All were things suitable for me to eat at the time. I never accepted any of it, all of it I gave to the dormitory auntie. And so we remained at a stalemate for a month. Then Domingo appeared. He showed up limping near our school, wandering around asking anyone he saw where Robin was. Lately, Robin herself had been holding her stomach, unable to look me in the eye. I noticed the slight swell of her belly, surely already 3 months along. Counting the days, it matched exactly the time when Mrs. Kim had been hospitalized. I was utterly revolted. Upon realizing this, I immediately and anonymously told Domingo. After he learned, he rushed straight to the campus gates. The two of them argued and tugged at each other outside school. I happened to be waiting for my takeout nearby, watching as Domingo wept and shouted, "I don't care, you're carrying my child. My leg was ruined from looking for you. You must take responsibility for me." Robin noticed my gaze and turned toward me as if pleading for help. But it had nothing to do with me. When my food arrived, I picked it up and left without a backward glance. Later, I saw a new school doctor in the infirmary. It turned out Domingo, at his wits' end, had gone to our principal and begged him to dismiss Robin so she could take care of him instead. The matter gave the principal a headache, but since the school doctor's position was never considered very important, he waved his hand and agreed. Later, I heard that Robin had been forced to marry Domingo after returning home. Even when her professor came knocking, Domingo turned him away every time. He was afraid the woman he had finally trapped would run away. In the end, with no choice, Robin gave birth and could only find work near home. She lived her whole life in mediocrity. Meanwhile, after graduation, I did not hesitate to devote myself to the construction of my country. When I finally returned home at the age of 30, I was laden with honors. On the street corner, I happened to glimpse a woman sweeping. She looked young, yet her back was hunched, her whole appearance worn and old. I hadn't expected that would be my last sight of Robin. Sometime later, a fire broke out in a shabby residential block. I only learned in casual conversation with colleagues that the people involved were Domingo and Robin. The two, after years of disharmony, perished together. I could only sigh with a trace of pity. The world is unpredictable indeed.